We have action.
All right.
That was 6 seconds ago.
So we've been talking about this for each recording that, the 20 game mark is where it's going to be quite exciting because you can start to make some more definitive statements. You can kind of figure out where things are going for certain teams. As one example that I'm looking at right now, the Detroit Pistons probably aren't going to be good this season based off their current record of 2-18. And the finals contenders, or at least playoff contenders at this point, are starting to become apparent. You are in a unique position because finals contenders and the Magic have not been synonymous in a good while. But right now, they're leading their division with a record of 14-6.
Finals contenders.
Yeah, finals contenders.
Finals contenders.
Let's
These are big words right now. Finals contenders. How about we're talking about playoffs?
At this point, I think you should be happy as a Magic fan. I think you're having success. It's the 20 game mark and you're still having success. You're actually on, I think, the largest active streak right now. And you are beating the teams that you need to beat in combination with beating some.
We just lost. Get with the
okay, well,
Did you not hear like we just gotta we gotta give the news correct, right? We were on a 9-game winning streak. We had all this hype about we're one of 2 organizations that have never hit a 10-game winning streak ever as an organization, and then we go to Brooklyn and we lose by 28 points. So I guess our record stays at 9.
So this is one of the perks, I guess, of being maybe more of a casual fan to teams that aren't the Phoenix Suns. I feel good about the Magic, but clearly you got a real tone of repeated history here, disappointment. There's a lot coming out in this, so maybe explore your feelings about the Magic. What's going on for you?
Well, I guess if we make the playoffs, which we're trending towards, I'm not going to start using sentences like finals contenders, but if we make the playoffs and we win a playoffs game, all we need is Pat Beverly sort of tearing off his singlet and going, my God, we've won something, right? So I guess that's sort of where we're at. And look, you're probably right. You're absolutely right. I'm not trying to get my hopes up too high. I would love for us to be finals contenders. I'd love for us to win a championship, okay? But I don't think we're there yet. I think we're a young and upcoming team, which we have been for a while now, especially since we sort of traded away all those vets a few seasons ago. And look, it's definitely on the upwards. But look, I'm not sold yet. You might never sell me this season, yeah. Even if we win the first round, I don't know. All right, but yeah. Look, finals contenders are the big words there, man.
So, I'm all about the clickbait, I guess. Yeah, unpacking a little bit, you felt very passionately about their recent draft, taking 2 more guards to add to the treasure trove of guards that they have. And obviously, Dalen Suggs has, I guess, actually turned into an NBA player, which is a problem because that adds another guard that you already had that we could kind of safely say he's probably out of the rotation. Now he's back in the rotation. So make sure I'm not missing anybody. We got Markelle Fultz, we got Cole Anthony, we got Jalen Suggs, we got Anthony Black, and cannot remember your other guard. Yeah, but he hasn't really touched the court at all, right? He's not even.
How do you play 5 guards? When you're trying to get
small ball.
Well, it's just not how it works, man. And suddenly I think Fultz has become the odd man out. We obviously now got this winning record, and he's been out for most of this season, I guess so far. I think he played the first couple games, and I don't know. Can we get something in return for him? Because I think we put a few years on his contract, didn't we?
Well, you've got also Jonathan Isaac, who is another player who's really struggled to stay healthy. And I guess from a completely 2K mindset, Orlando would probably trade those 2 in a heartbeat, right? Get rid of Markelle, get rid of Jonathan Isaac, especially while they're trending or they have a little bit of value left, because they aren't probably longevity players at this stage of their career. Both of them having ACL injuries, but then multiple injuries in addition to. And I always seem to find a way to talk about my own experiences with this, but it's once you ding the car, man, it's never the same. Once your knee goes, it's just never the same.
You're keeping that active streak going about talking about your knee on every podcast. That's a good streak you got in itself.
It's cathartic at this point, yeah. It's going to be the longest active streak of podcasters talking about a personal injury that's relevant to everyone else. But this is something that's been eating at me. So we talked a little bit about it last week. Who is your rookie of the year? But I don't actually want to frame the conversation like that, because what's happening now, and it happened a couple of years back as well, all of a sudden, Chet is having more success, looking quite good, and having, probably the better season thus far. And we talked about the difference in roles. Chet's a role player, or, a second or third star, excelling in that role, whereas Wemby is the main focal point on a team that's just clearly not trying to be competitive. And he's got a lot more, I guess, errors as well. There's also an age gap between the two of them. But the big conversation that's coming out again is Chet isn't a rookie. He's already been in the league for a season, these kind of things. So I too feel like if you play, and these are your first games in the NBA in a season, this counts as being a rookie. But there is merit to people saying that he's had a year of film study, a year of professional training, dietitians, team practices, etc., that he is able to slot in with an advantage being in his second season. Now, I'm thinking perhaps the easiest solution here is rookie of the year is exclusive to the draft class. So this rule that's existed, or this loose system, what is its purpose? Because it wasn't designed for rookies to get hurt one season and then compete for it in the future season. And it clearly isn't designed for some EuroLeague guy to come over at the age of 28 and win Rookie of the Year. It's always been like one of the top 10 draft picks is probably going to win the Rookie of the Year. So why don't we just stop this debate, stop all this? And you know what? We can also shift the narrative into these what ifs. Well, what if Chet was around last season and maybe Paolo doesn't win it? That's the way that the rule works. If you can't play in your rookie season, which is the first year that you are paid as a professional basketballer, which Chet was paid last season. I know there's stipulations in their contract that they're, when they're injured, they don't lose money because of that. That's just how it goes. But he has already played, or he's already been paid as a professional for a year. So your face says otherwise.
Yeah, my face definitely says this is a load of horseshit. While you are obviously trying to share your thoughts here, and yeah, look, I clearly disagree with you. I simply pulled up the dictionary definition for rookie. Yeah, rookie, noun, a member of a sports team in their first full season, and that's what Chet is, and that's what Embiid was, and every other rookie that were sort of redshirted for their first season, usually due to injury, they did not play any of their games, and all they did was get a year older. Yes, they obviously got stronger, got to work on their game, but any player would be able to do that. In whatever circumstance you are, whether as a rookie, injured, whether you're in Europe and being stashed there, or so on and so forth, or whatnot. And I guess, or whether you're in the G League, because I believe if you play the G League the whole season, let's assume there was a rookie out there that was drafted, did not play a single NBA game, but played a season in the G League, you would still be considered a rookie until you play your first game in the NBA. And that is what it is. So I don't know. I feel maybe is this a little bit of like Wemby love or something? What are we trying to just give him the award?
No, I just think it always comes up, and I'm actually like I made a case saying it would be easiest just to say it needs to be in the year that you're drafted. But I'm not saying that I agree with that. So if I sound like a flip flopper, I'm really not trying to be. I also agree with you in the sense professional players, when they start professionally playing their first season, that's how it should work. But this debate just comes up every time we have this dynamic where there's one rookie who didn't play in his rookie season versus another rookie who is playing in his rookie season. Contract wise, I'm referencing contract wise because Chet did get paid last season. Let's not mince that. He's not now a millionaire.
What significant advantage, okay, does Chet have over Wemby simply because he was injured for a whole 12 months?
Well, I think the injury for 12 months is an asterisk. I think this happens quite often. We get these rookies with high potential who unnecessarily sit out games in their rookie season. Like, let's say that is Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, who pulls that injury in the preseason, and then their team's in finals contention at the end of the season. Are they not coming back? Are they not coming back and it takes them out the whole thing?
I think, and now maybe you can bring this back to your knee, right? Was it not you that told me that you should not have come back and played as early as you did?
No, I never said that. I almost took 2 years between my left knee and then returning to play. No, the issue is I shouldn't have went back at all because mentally I wasn't there.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that it's never a clear-cut situation on how long a player should be out because we all heal differently, right? I hurt my arm, I get a cut, I break my arm, whatever, how long it takes for me to heal is probably different to you, and it's probably different to the other person there. And then, like you alluded to, there's also the mental side of things and all these other little side of things there too. I think it's one thing to go, oh, look, Chet had an injury to his foot, wasn't it, or something like that. Obviously, there was a period where he would have undergone surgery or something along those lines, then rehab, and then at that point, that's finished. Oh, he could have come back at game 60 last year, but he didn't. But that's not the point, It's like he's not ready to come back, and there's so many reasons, and which is why you would sit out a period of time additional to that, and then you go, all right, look, I guess we're starting game one of the next season, and that's just what it is. No conspiracy.
There's always a conspiracy. I think that's where you're not seeing with your third eye the way that you need to be.
You are. So what are you trying to say here? Like Wemby should be the rookie of the year. Chet is ineligible. Is that how you're framing this?
I think if you were to create a real strong, firm line on this rookie of the year debate, perhaps it's just easiest to go, it's the year that you're drafted and your draft class is what you are competing against. And if you are unable to compete against your draft class, that is unfortunate, tough break. Ultimately, how important is the rookie of the year as well? Like we have these debates, but like it doesn't impact their legacy. It doesn't. Like Steph Curry has, entered the top 10 conversation. He did not win rookie of the year that year. You know what I mean? Like Dame Lillard won rookie of the year over Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis has probably had a little bit more success than Dame Lillard has due to the finals. It just doesn't hold the weight. So we spend so much time debating this, and it just feels like such a artificial argument topic to just waste media attention on. And we're doing it as well. But what I'm saying is with my new rule, which is it's your draft class, we don't have this conversation anymore. We can do the what if debate then. We were like, oh, what if Chet did play last season? Maybe he would have won it. But then maybe he wouldn't have over Paolo because Paolo statistically had a better rookie year than Chet has, not including shooting. So who knows? That's my rookie rant.
Who knows? Who knows? You know what? If we're going to go with that who knows trend, I sent you a message earlier in the week, right? I said, where's a landing spot for Zach Lavine? Yeah. I'm like, I think actually look, I was targeting him on the fantasy team, and I was like, all right, I wouldn't mind pulling him across. I've had him in previous seasons, and I know we'll talk about fantasy a little bit more later, but from a like a reality perspective, right now, I don't think he wants to be at the Bulls, and I think we talked about the Bulls a few weeks ago, and things have continued to go, I guess, downwards for them. That said, though, they're only like 3 games out of the play-in spot. And that's how sort of the play-in situation has created all these teams remaining competitive for longer than it used to be for top 10 spots versus top 8 spots. But I think it's really clear that he's probably not that interested to be at the Bulls anymore, and he's likely to go somewhere else. And it's like, who would actually want him? Who would want DeRozan? Like, who would want any of these players at the moment? And obviously, everyone then says the Lakers, right? But like, look, I honestly don't think that's really realistic. It makes no sense for them to sort of shake their roster up at this point yet. It's not like they're going as bad as they were last year.
Well, I guess a couple of things. Number one, the Bulls aren't competitive because they're close to being in the play-in. They're competitive because they don't have any draft picks. There is no reason for them to be bad. They've really committed to this core and this team. So, we look at Vucevic, we look at DeMar DeRozan, we look at Zach Lavine, all on lengthy contracts still. None of them are in and expiring. And none of them are less than 20 mil a season. And then you also have some weird pieces, right? So like Alex Caruso, is that whole player that everyone would trade for because he'd be a great fit on any other team, but they've got him. Kobe White, who they want him to be something that I don't know if he is. Patrick Williams, who is probably, who's a player recently that had that well, we can't trade that guy. He's too good. He's like the best thing ever. We can't get rid of him. He's got that weird allure that he can't be touched. But I think you're wrong. I think the Lakers are a perfect fit because the Lakers do this all the time. This LeBron era in the Lakers will be a really interesting deep dive as time progresses. That roster is drastically different every 6 months. And the Lakers aren't going to be competitive in a really loaded West. And they have some interesting contracts in D'Angelo Russell and a couple of young guys and maybe a pick or two that I could totally see them picking up Zach Lavine. No, it doesn't improve them. It doesn't make them any better, but it can be a trade that they do because it's doing something instead of just staying the course. Because LeBron's eventually going to tweet out something, and then Zach Lavine's going to react with the googly eyes or whatever it is. This is already pre-written, man. This is in the script at this stage.
So I guess right now, are we going to sort of agree that Zach Lavine's potentially one of the first players that's going to be shifted this season, at least from a sort of all-star caliber perspective?
Now, that's the hard question because DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic are both on the Bulls and both also have some value to a team. Someone from that Bulls big three will be going first. I just don't know which one it will be because I think DeMar DeRozan, the one that coming to mind. Jimmy Butler, I feel like he's a little bit of a comp for that. He's a bit of a mid-range assassin, and he's clearly at a stage in his career where he'd like to be successful, and I think he would, do quite well on a team that's competitive. Nikola Vucevic is a center who is quite offensively gifted, and for a team that maybe lacks a position there, they would get it. And then Zach Lavine is supposedly a really, really good shooting guard. I am not using supposedly to be dismissive. It's just we know what he does, and it's volume shooting. That Detroit performance where he has like 51 points and they still lose by a good margin and the rest of his stats pretty empty. That is who he is. And I just don't know what team needs that. But one of them will not be there at the end of the season. There's no way the Bulls finish the season with this roster. And if they do, then what is Bulls management doing? And that's a whole other debate.
Well, you wanted to debate something about the Bucks, is that right?
Well, it's not necessarily debating. It's more like, obviously, they're starting to trend up. And I think when you look at the offensive numbers, this shouldn't be a surprise. Their combo is pretty good. There's a little bit of a surprise in Brook Lopez becoming such a pivotal point. Chris Middleton is looking a little bit better day by day. I don't think he's going to get back to his previous form. But the reason why I bring them up is for all of the trending in the right direction and everything that's really well, don't you feel like it's not going to matter in April and May because they're probably going to get bounced in the first and second round because they can't stop anybody from scoring the basketball, which is half of the game?
Whoa, yeah, we got some big predictions here 20 games in, yeah? You've basically gone from putting the Magic into finals contender conversation to the Bucks getting bounced in the first round. Is that sort of what I'm hearing here? I think, look, clearly the Bucks have still a lot of work to do on the defensive end. Will they be the sort of defensive force they were when they had Drew Holiday? Probably not. I don't think they're going to be first round fodder. Not like last year. Yeah, I think that last year was a bit of an anomaly there. Obviously, they ran into Heat, and everyone else that ran into Heat last year literally got bounced. So, look, I think they've got plenty of work to do there, but they've still got plenty of time. What's the opposite of obviously the 20 games in? They got 60 games to go, right? That's the point, right? And they still have Giannis. They still have Brook Lopez. They've still got, Portis and the bench and all these sort of core players. They haven't really turned over the roster. It's really just incorporating this crazy offensive player like Lillard that's really almost like the opposite to Drew Holiday sort of was in his forte in the sense. And then how do you incorporate that into consistent winning? And I think they've got plenty of time to figure that out.
It's we've probably stopped calling our segments hot takes, but I don't know, today especially, it's kind of warm where I am. So maybe that's why I'm feeling a little bit warmer than normal on some things. I don't know. I think the Bucks, you look at the Bucks, you look at the Sixers, you look at the Celtics. If you had to pick one of those three teams for the most likely to flame out in the first round, I feel like the Bucks are the obvious choice. Obviously, Sixers could make a case as well because they do that regularly. But
so you're saying here Bucks might finish top 4 in the East, and they're gonna drop the first round. Is that your pick right now? 20 games in.
At this point, do we feel like they finish with the 3rd or 4th seed? Do you feel like they get to 1st or 2nd with how Boston and Philly look at this stage of the season?
Let's assume every single team stays healthy because that's a huge factor. Yeah, all right. Every single team stays healthy. I would expect the Bucks to be top 2.
Okay, all right.
Like they're 3rd at the moment. They're a game and a half out of 1st. Yeah, considering they've incorporated Lillard in 20 games in and the challenges they've had that we've already touched upon, it's they're not going to get worse. They're going to get better.
I
What are you saying? Are you saying the Bucks aren't even going to finish top four?
No, I'm not saying they're not going to finish top 4. I don't think they're going to finish top 2. I think third is probably their landing spot.
So who's ahead of them? Who's ahead of them? Celtics and what?
I think Celtics and Philly are ahead of them. The only reason why you could justify and say that they won't get bounced in the first round would be their first round opponent's probably going to be someone like the Magic or someone like the Cavaliers or someone like the Knicks. But here's an interesting prediction. All right, put this in the crystal ball, and we'll come back to it in time. Let's say the Bucks finish 4th. Right, let's say that the Pacers stay on and they just want to be a really good regular season team. Let's say the Knicks keep their course, they stay really good. And that forces the Bucks to 4th. And we kind of know that Miami likes to continue to chug along and they might finish 5th. We could have a repeat of last season, right? We could have a repeat of last season. I'm just gonna put that in there. That's gonna be one of my little predictions.
I like your little sort of conspiracy take there, but you got to remember now, this Heat team is not the same team that went all the way to the finals last year. They did lose a bunch of core pieces there that were really sort of chip on your shoulder sort of players there, looking for that next contract. All right, and really just sort of scrapping for every single sort of possession, which was sort of the Heat style. This season round, where they're 7th now, they're just about 500, but they've had to rely on a lot of different lineups, including heavy minutes for some rookies. And I'm not saying these rookies aren't going to be any good in like over the course of their careers, but I'm saying that right now it's a different reliance that the Heat have on how they're trying to get their wins. And I think come playoffs time, that's a whole different story. If you got a rematch there of the Bucks Heat first round, I think the Bucks have that extra motivation, let alone the extra experience to change the narrative and change the outcome. All right, let's start with obviously that they've got a different coach as well.
Yeah. Look, I'm just trying to put some stuff out into the universe, man. You can react to it. You can take it.
You want to put stuff in the universe? I know you noticed. We got a comment. We got a comment on one of our old videos, maybe like 6 months ago now, sort of thing, about how terrible my take on Franz Wagner and Banchero is aging. Because look at them. They're like playing like young studs, right? And here's the question for you, Nick. If we continue to remain in the top 4 come the end of the year, let's say in the next sort of 30 days, all right? And then obviously everyone starts to think about All-Star voting and who should make the All-Star team start of January. Who should, if anyone, make the All-Star team for the Magic?
Oh, it's easy. It's Wagner.
Wagner. Really?
Yeah. So I know that because I have Paolo on my fantasy team, and Paolo probably hasn't lived up to the expectation that I had for him. Wagner is your best player, and that person was right to criticize you. And you know what's wrong with the internet? I'm just going to go on a mini rant here. Instead of building me up, he chose, or she, but let's assume it's a he because statistically it'd be that, they just chose to put you down, And that's the frustrating part. I already did what the comment did. He didn't need to make that comment. I was the comment. He just needed to agree with me and be like, I really like Nick. I really like Nick's take there because Nick is totally spot on. I agree with Nick. I don't agree with you. But instead, he just goes straight to the attack. And isn't that just indicative of what's wrong with the internet these days? Right? Where instead of building someone up, we tear them down. You are wrong, and I'll tear you down. But I already did that in the video 6 months ago. We don't need to do that again.
So right now, would you wager money that an Orlando Magic player will make the All-Star team?
You keep training the way that they do, and you don't have an All-Star.
Right now, if I said, hey, go put a bet down right now, $100 on a Magic player making the All-Star team, would you take that bet right now? Like, it would pay off pretty well, I think.
I don't gamble. Like, if you asked me to put down $100 on Devin Booker making the All-Star game, I'd hesitate. But that would be because of his injuries, right? Like, it's difficult to know these things. We're talking about money. We're not talking about,
It's funny. So I just pulled up stats here. So obviously, Banchero's stats besides points is actually superior to Wagner. So now you're sort of saying, but Wagner's the better player. Is that really the case? I don't know. Have you been watching? You got League Pass? Is that we talked about this a little while.
No, I don't watch a lot of Magic. I'm going to be honest. This is just like you're up to date on the the
The
on the
win
win
streak.
streak no more. I too am not too up to date with that. So you know what? If you feel like it's Paolo, you'd be more. You've got more authority to say that. I don't know.
Look, I'm going to right now still say 0 Orlando Magic players are making the All-Star team. Anyone can give me a comment here if they've gone to this point of this video and tell me how bad that take is. And until they make a team, then I guess I continue to stand by that. So hey, look, we'll see what happens. But I guess on that note, we were at the 20-point mark that we're roughly at now, right? It means there's a player that's about to return in about 5 games. And here's a question for you, all right? And I know you're not a betting man, you just covered that. Can the Memphis Grizzlies turn their season around and make the playoffs?
Make the playoffs. Okay. Because if you just said turn their season around, I was like, obviously, yes.
Win a few games.
Yeah, they can win definitely more than 3 games. You know what? I think the rust. I don't know what the parameters of the suspension are. If he's been prevented from training with the team, I think there's going to be a little bit of rust. That's going to be natural. There's going to be a bit of a role reshuffle. But I do feel like Steven Adams not being there, Brandon Clark not being there, and even like Marcus Smart now currently not being there, I don't think they've got any continuity going in their favor. That even if they make a little bit of a run, like the hole that they've created for themselves is quite large, right? So to get into a playoff contention, really they need to, go on a quick 5-game win streak, which let's assume that they won't just begin doing that. They will need to win twice as many games as they do lose from this point of the season onwards, probably just to break towards a 500 record, which at the current pace of the West, you probably won't make the playoffs or even the play-in with a 500 record. I do worry that Memphis has lost a season of Ja Morant here outside of the suspension, because what they've got around him is not going to get the job done at all. And currently we're having, Jaren Jackson Jr. in a bit of a decline where, at what point are we going to realize that man can't stay on the basketball court for longer than 20 minutes? And even though he's really, really good, he can't not foul people. And that's only going to get you so far. I think I'm really low on Memphis. I'm really low on Memphis.
It's funny because I think if we go back to one of our old podcasts or takes a little while ago now, I actually made a call here that I figured that Memphis would really jump up the standings this season. But look, as always, we footnote a lot of these predictions, I guess, based upon the health of players. And no one would have predicted, that they've lost.
He's healthy.
Well, no, they've lost 2 of their centers, obviously. And Marcus Smart, like you alluded to, a key rotational player that they brought in now, has also been out now for a few games. But having a look at the standings here, I guess you're sort of saying that you don't think that they're going to be able to jump with a healthy Jar coming back in. Portland, Utah, and the Rockets, and one more team. Because those are probably the 3 teams that are not supposed to be playing for the play-in or playoffs this year, and they're currently behind them. And that sort of then leaves a couple of the teams there, like the Lakers will probably jump up there. So we're probably looking at something like the Clippers. We're assuming they get their act together, right? So it's the Pelicans. And therefore, we're hedging another bet here that the Zion continue to play up to 65 games this year. Trending well so far, but if not, then it's more than likely the Pelicans season, their wheels fall off there as well, as it often has, isn't that the case?
Well, what's Memphis's motivation to overcompete? Because they're not trying to be competitive at this point. They're actually trying to overcompete because they have a hole to get out of. They're not starting off the season like everyone else did. Their season won't begin until 25 games in. Why not just lose it? Why not just let your players recover? Why not secure a draft pick?
There's no one here to tank for this year, isn't that the reality? It's 2025 that you got Cooper Flag, right? Who's in 2024? Because I don't know if you looked at the draft board. Here's actually, I don't know if you looked at this sort of stuff, but Ron Holland sliding down that draft board rapidly, and I gave you this eye scouting analysis when I saw him in person in Singapore here, and I'm not shocked. Okay, I got nothing as a kid, all right, but my eye scouting, non-professional opinion was that this kid is not a number 1 draft pick.
Yeah, look, good little plug for your side venture. Maybe we need to do more scouting, deep dives. We need some visuals and some highlights of him. I I think sometimes with draft picks, all right, yeah, maybe the draft isn't super strong, but they need to build up some assets. They need to do a move, because when you look at their track history, they go up against Golden State, and that's their peak year. That's their we're having our breakout party and we're really strong. But they were never going to beat Golden State in that matchup. Okay. Then they go up against the Lakers, and it's like a classic scenario of we actually don't have enough experience to do this. And the way that they play it is that Ja has to have 40 for them to win. I do worry that Memphis has potential to be one of those teams that we're just like, oh, that was a fun team for a year or two, and then it just didn't pan out because their roster is locked up. They have money invested in their players. None of their players are on Ja Morant's tier, right? Like, we're not talking about Desmond Bain or Jaren Jackson Jr. as like...
That's a great point there. What is Ja Morant's tier? Is Ja Morant
Well,
a top
Ja
10 player?
Morant,
Is he a top 10 player in the league?
Ja Morant has top 10 potential. He very much has a Derrick Rose-esque vibe, right? Where with Derrick Rose, the Bulls were like a 60-win team, and without him, they fell into like a 500 team at best, right? But you look at the players around him, is Desmond Bain, on the same level as Luol Deng or that? Probably, right? I know that Desmond Bain has good stats, but I think there's some limitations there, and there's,
But
definitely some...
you mentioned Derrick Rose vibe, but the Derrick Rose vibe feels like a mouthful in itself. Is actually based upon winning, like you alluded to. So it's the vibe only comes with the wins. There ain't gonna be no vibe in Memphis if they don't win. It would just be Ja Morant is, I don't know, a poor man Isaiah Ryder. Remember that guy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Maybe the weird take out of all of this, maybe Dylan Brooks wasn't the problem. I know this sounds really weird, but bear with me here because I've also had my issues with Dylan Brooks, and I think that there's some things. But the Houston thing is currently working, and it looks okay. They got rid of Dylan Brooks. They got rid of Tyus Jones. They felt like there was maybe a weird culture thing going on there. They didn't like it. Ironically, they're both playing on other teams and playing okay. And Ja Morant, who they were worried about a bad culture in Memphis, he's the one that's been suspended. So maybe, outlandish theory, maybe Ja Morant was the problem. Maybe that's where it hasn't went wrong. Ultimately, this is also probably recency bias. We haven't seen him play now in 20 games. We need to see him on the court. We need to see his impact so he can remind us how good he is. But I think what our original topic was, he can't just come back and be good. He needs to be exceptional because he needs to push his team back into playoff or even just play in contention, which is not going to be an easy feat because in 5 more games, I don't see the Memphis Grizzlies winning more than 2 of them, which means that he's coming back to essentially like a 5-20 record. That's probably going to be the hole that he's in when he comes back.
Well, the playing, like we said before, right, means you continue to really stay in the race for longer than you do. So, even right now they're 5-14, and they're only 4 games out of the play-in race. And that 10th spot currently is held by the Rockets, which no one is really probably expecting them to make the playoffs this year. But they're competitive. It's good, but they've suddenly gone a sort of losing streak over the last few weeks now that they've gone from literally second, I think, to 10th now in the West. So yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see, right? It'll be interesting to see, which is sort of play where you're at, man. How's your winning streak going in fantasy?
I really want to play my only loss. I need to play them again to beat them and then officially take the crown that I can beat anybody in the league. Because I did make those proclamations, and obviously it took a bit of a stumble. Beat you last week. Won a really close one this week. A really, really close one this week.
Everyone's 5-4.
Everyone was 5-4. Obviously, there were no games today. So, everyone was hit with the same thing. A lot of outs. I've heard other people complaining about players being injured, and I finally got hit with that. I had multiple players not play games.
Why
I had
no
guys
games today? I was like, what's going on? Like,
maybe it's got to do with the in-season tournament that they're restructuring the league a little bit. Maybe there's a holiday in America I'm not aware of. I'm not too sure. But yeah, look, it was a really close competitive week. I was having good chats with the guy that I was playing, and we both kind of realized that if he had a guy subbed in, he might have won the statistical category. But me having a guy subbed out might have helped me win that category over him just, or, you know, there was a lot of what ifs on that one. So I think that's the fantasy that you want. And obviously you alluded to this in previous weeks that these should be competitive games, or no one should really pull too far ahead because all of our teams respectively are quite loaded. You know, I think I look at my team and I reflect on my drafting, and, you know, Tyrese Halliburton and Tyrese Maxey really are helping me in the guard position. Devin Booker's been good, but hasn't played a lot. And the Chet and Wemby picks, you know, I think I am riding that roller coaster you alluded to, that rookies just aren't consistent. There was, you know, I had a really bad blocks week, but then Chet has 5 in one game. And if Wemby didn't set out another, that's potential another 5. And those two can go off for blocks. So my blocks category is very fluctuating. I can have the best blocks week or the worst blocks week, depending on what those two do. Because obviously I'm very attentive to their stats. And, you know, it's weird that they're averaging, you know, like 2.7 blocks and 2.2 blocks, but you can go multiple games where they don't have any blocks, and then they'll get 5 or 8 in a game and their stats trend up. But I think you also won, and really that should get more attention at this stage because you don't win often. So
okay, thanks for pointing out those facts there. Here's another fact. Yeah, if we continue to 5 and 4 wins, if we have winning weeks at a 5 and 4, that's not going to be enough for me to reel anyone in. I'm the Memphis Grizzlies right now of this league, all right, and I'm gonna need to start getting some 6 and 3s or 7 and 2s or something like that. Move the needle. I think I'm aware of that clearly, as I'm stating right now. I was hoping maybe go 6 and 3 this week, but you know, as you know, you said, you know, you never know. It is an interesting game of fantasy at times, and consistency is so key, right? That's like me on a domestic league dropping, you know, 30 in a game and then thinking I'm going to do that the rest of the season, and then next week you come back and drop a 0 game or something like that, or a 10-point game, right? It's consistency, and it does all average out, obviously. Yeah, look, you know, I guess you just gotta, I guess from my perspective, just trying to continue to make inroads on some of these little areas. I still feel like I've got players that can trend upwards slightly more than they have been so far. Um, but then, you know, that said, you know, I'm aware because we've got such a small league that everyone has talent on their teams, and then there still continues to be talent sort of sitting on the free agency pile at any point. You can try and jump on board and grab. You might notice I grabbed Terry Rozier this recently, and he's probably got slated to play heavy minutes and a larger role over the next few weeks at least while LaMelo is out. Which is ironic because you know, someone tried to trade me LaMelo for Luka Doncic. Why are you wasting my time? Like, and then we got Matt, yeah, you know, our lovely commissioner here, and hopefully he can tune in for this. But you can point him to this, you know, whatever 38-minute mark of this recording that you know, if you're gonna try and pitch me a trade, you could at least try and like give me some level of fake news on why I should actually take it. Yeah, not.
well, so here's the interesting thing. I was the person he was talking to, and I didn't hate the trade, assuming he offered what I said. It was the Clippers duo for Chris Paul and Luka, acknowledging that you need to get rid of 2 roster slots, and then we don't have to touch anything, right?
It wasn't Chris Paul and Luka. He wanted Kyrie and Luka.
Okay, so
and actually, I dropped Chris Paul. Chris Paul's out right now.
Yeah, so that was my point. I kind of acknowledged that it is it. So for Luka, someone of Luka's stature, it is probably a 2-for-1 trade. So I did suggest to him that he should, you know, put Chris Paul in there just for courtesy, so that he can get the roster slot clean and it's all easy to do. But you know, the Clippers duo currently have been really good. You know, we kind of said that with his team that we didn't know what would happen with those two, but currently they've played a lot. The James Harden additions messed things up a little bit, but I think they're both pretty good. And the thing is, their stats combined are technically better than Luka's, right? And when you do a 2-for-1 trade or you do a 2-for-2 trade, if you're trying to get the best player in the trade, the other 2 players, like out of the 4 players, the first player goes to one person. The next 2 best players have to go in return. So in my mind, he was going to receive the 1st and 4th best player in that trade, e.g. gets Luka and gets Chris Paul, which he probably drops. and then you get two other good things.
I
I
get you.
didn't
I
realize
get
you
you.
tried to go for Kyrie. I didn't realize you tried to go for Kyrie.
Got greedy. All right.
Are you saying in hindsight, if he had offered Chris Paul, would you have considered that trade? Like, obviously, you would have considered it a bit more, but does it end up getting over the line, or you still need more for Luka? What are you thinking?
You raised some real great fantasy points here. Look, I guess to answer the short question there, I would probably have to still decline the trade simply from I guess the fragile knees and ankles and everything else for PG and Kawhi, and that risk associated with that. All right, it's not a bad trade, but to me, it's probably not a trade that is still worth my while pulling off. I think, and Luka is available, okay, but I think to trade for Luka, you need to offer me a top 10 player, and neither of those players are top 10 player. I've made it really clear my wish list here is Jokic, and the irony, but listen up. The irony here is that I just played the team that has Jokic, and I just beat them 5-4, so it's close, okay, but we're both last in our divisions. Yeah. And so here's the catch. We need to shake something up right now. Yeah, we need to shake something up right now, and otherwise we're probably just going to be last in our divisions in 3 months' time. Okay? And so me giving up my first pick versus him giving up his first pick, plus, here's the catch. I said, take the pick of my roster. Yeah, I said to him, take the pick of my roster. Yeah, take Luka and the pick of my roster. He could have said, hey, I'll take Luka and AD. I'll take Luka and Sabonis. I don't know. You know, he had the choice. But he came back to me and said, yeah, I got no offer to make you. I'm like, well, I gave it my best shot, but you know, pick up the phone and call me again if you change your mind. But that's how I see it. That's how I see it.
So let's move on from Luka then. All right, let's say it's too hard to get a package for him, just the talent's too high. Who is your next player that you feel like would return something that could shift the needle for you?
I'll be honest here. I'll give you some insider thoughts here. Yeah, maybe this is so. Here's a bit of the challenge here. You know, when I was asking like the Zach Lavine question, I was like, I'm just there. No, can I say, hey, just asking for a mate here? Because clearly, you know, we're obviously rivals in our fantasy league. No one really wants to give each other really, you know, sort of any sort of advantage, and I can sort of get that, of course, yeah. But the reality here is that I know my roster has flaws. I know I'm underperforming. Some of this has got to do with my players coming out with really slow starts. Clearly, Lillard has been performing way below his expectations right now, and a lot of that has to do with shooting. Yeah, a lot of my players have been shooting so poorly, yeah, in that sort of sense. Some of the players like Siakam has sort of righted the ship a little bit, and his percentages are now trending up, and his numbers are probably roughly where they should be. He's averaging 20 points right now, when that was down to about 14, 15 a few weeks ago. All right, and I think what my goal is, okay, here's the inside info, is that I think there's players out there in free agency that I would like to grab. So my goal is to grab a key player for one of my key players, because I'm not expecting that I can grab a key player by just giving up bit players. So that's why Luka is on the table, and anyone's on the table really if you make me a reasonable offer, okay, that I want to, I'm happy to overload a package, okay, to another owner to allow me to then look at some of these other options available. Yeah, it's about roster spots too. And that's the part where, like I said, the Jokic trade for Luka plus anyone on my roster, surely that's worth considering. That as far as I'm concerned, surely that's worth considering when your team is last. Yeah, okay, if your team was first and you're rolling, sure, I don't want to touch anything, I'm happy with where I'm going, I get it. But when your team is last, surely that is worth considering. Because Luka and Jokic are the closest two players that probably statistically are similar.
Yeah, I don't think you really said anything. You said a lot, but you didn't really say anything that really changes things. I think, you know, people want names, right? So, you know, I look at my roster, for example, and a part of me feels like accidentally Tyrese Halliburton is probably my best player, right? Giving me 27 points.
He was projected top 10, man.
Yeah, but when you look at players like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum also being, you know, there, all NBA caliber players, the fact that Tyrese Halliburton's come out and is, you know, 88% from free throw, 45% from three, pretty good turnover ratio considering, you know, I think I don't think I expected that when I picked him. I was expecting 20 and 12 sort of thing. I didn't expect 27 and 12. That's a huge uptick. Tyrese Maxey as well.
Yep.
You know, when I picked him, I expected again like 25 and 5, right? That's probably what I expected. And I'm currently getting 27, 5 and 7. You know, it's these kind of things that have helped me. But, you know, then obviously the Wemby pick 20 games in, you know, and the Chet pick. And I keep alluding to these. And like, I know that you want to make a package and that, but it's so hard with those because you have some games where you look at their box score and you're like, okay, I don't know why I really drafted you today. And then you have other games where it's like, wow, I cannot believe that I got 35 points, 6 blocks, 5 steals, 8 rebounds,
the upside is
assists.
huge
Yeah,
for those guys.
their big games are huge.
Absolutely.
Their big games are huge. So, you know, for me, it's like James Harden, he's starting to trend upwards, but he's currently settled into a sort of 16 and 6 role, and that potentially could use an upgrade. But admittedly, I'm not going to get a trade return for that because I will get equivalent value. That's not fair to the other person as well. Miles Bridges, 20 and 7, you know, that's pretty good. But LaMelo being out kind of hurt him a little bit. But I guess, as you kind of referenced as well, I'm top of the league. I don't have to do anything. I'm good.
All right. We'll wrap up on that. I'm going to press this button and you just sit there and look all smug, all right?